Hello everyone, I'm super excited to show that now I have added another option along with not only generating a technical proposal for my request for proposal, but now we have this option which you can see on my screen, which is deep dive analysis. So what does it mean? Once you have this technical proposal generated based on the RFP you uploaded, then you have, for now, I have given these four options like elaborate on a proposed architecture, provide a deeper comparison of the technology stack. The third one is detail the cloud deployment services. And if you want to have a more technology stack like, .NET, Java or Python and whatever the additional preference you have. So these are the four different level of deep dive analysis, or, you can modify your technical proposal depending upon what kind of option you want to utilize, right? So the very first thing which you're gonna do is you are going to upload the RFP, right? So I'm gonna upload this RFP. I explained in my previous video, this is the RFP from the International Institute of Technology, Bangalore. This is the old one, but I mean, it's good for our use case to understand how this actually works, right? So let me just quickly do that. The another advancement which I have done is, as I mentioned in my previous video, my the Agentic AI was failing because of 429, which is actually an indication that my application API request quota has been fulfilled, right? And that is where, if you just see this code, this is how it is just switching back to this. So you can see here, if whenever the API quota is going to be exhausted, then it is going to fall back to the different the model, right, which is the 1.5 flash latest, which I have just changed this to 2.5 latest as, right? So first it will check whether the quota is there. If not, then it will fall back to the previous model where we have the quota remaining. So that's the another advancement which I have done. So we will not get into the situation where my agentic AI is going to fail because of the API exhaustion, right? Now just try to understand first from the demo. So I have just analyzed for the RFP. Now we got the RFP. Now how we can do the deep diving. So let's try to do the elaborate on a proposed architecture and see what kind of difference we get, right? So let me just run that, and now I can quickly show you how this actually works, right? So this is no. So what I'm going to do, this is my first version and this is my second version. Okay, so when we first request for the analyze RFP, then this is the V1 version which we got for the telemanage, and this is the second version where we have to have an elaborated architecture, proposed architecture, right? If I just compare and show you the differences or the additional information which my agentic AI has added. Now you can see the high level structure, high level design proposal where we have the executive summary, which was just created by Analyze RFP process. Now, in the deep down, we are asking to elaborate on the architecture, and that is where this section was added by the Agentic AI, where it's trying to elaborate on the architecture. So, what it is saying, it is giving us, how your microservices structure would look like. You're going to have a web application, which is going to interact with the API gateway, and then API gateway has two services, user service and the tally service, which actually in going to interact with the internal services, right? But these are the two services which are configured against that API gateway for now. And then we have some internal services which are going to just interact internally. So we should not be. So this is just giving us a very high level workflow. Then what kind of notification service we have? We have message basis, right? Accordingly, it just gave what kind of APIs we're going to have for each service. Then we have a resiliency and fault tolerance, right? So this is the another change, so this is the detailed information for the technical architecture, which is a really good option to have. The second thing is what you can do is you can just get the deeper comparison of the technology skill, right? So if you just learn that, so now you can see the trend, how actually it just generate all those files is basically, let me just quickly show you that for the demo proposal, right? So markdown, we're going to see whatever the RFP name is. Then we have a V1, V2, V3, and V4. V1 is the very first version when we hit the analyze RFP from our application. The second one is whatever the option you shall select. Based on that, it's create V2, V3, and V4. So right now we have four options. So basically V1 was going to be our generation, then V2, V3, V4, and V5 going to be what kind of deep dive option you select. And based on that, those versions are going to be created. Now I have just done created this V3 for this deeper comparison of the technology state. And let me just quickly clean this one. and show you what kind of magic, my Agentic AI has done for the version 3. Let me just put not this one. Let me just close. This one is not V2. Let me just bring V3 here, or V4 here, right? So now we have V3 and then V2. We can quickly compare them and see what kind of difference. Now we should see only the difference in the content of our technical proposal related to the deeper comparison of the technology state. And now you can see this is our section, which is, having a more detail on the technology, right? So this information was not detailed out earlier. Now it is detailed out and it is just giving more kind of recommendations and the specific library which we have to use to just build the solution by using an option one technology state. Same thing it has done for the second option and then the third option, right? So now you can have a more detail about these three options. The next option is detail the cloud deployment services, right? So what you can do here is, again, let me just quickly say, clear this and just show me if I just do this fourth one, then we have to see the difference related to the cloud strategy, right? So now you can see there is no change from version V3 to version V4. Only difference which we're gonna see in our proposal is related to the cloud deployment and the DevOps strategy. So now we can see the detailed information like recommended cloud provider. Now this is the very interesting part where it is just explaining what kind of resource you need on the AWS side, like for the orchestration, container orchestration, you need the EKS service, which is the Elastic Kubernetes service. What kind of, the size of the nodes which you will be needing, like master and the worker nodes. Then you have a primary database, Amazon RDS. Then we have the, the cache for caching. We can use Elastic Cache for Redis. Message versus RabbitMQ. We can use Kafka as well. Object storage S3 bucket, networking VPC. And then we have a container registry as well. And along with that, it is not only giving just this infrastructure detail, but it has added the security policy and compliance, which is very important to have in such applications with DevSecOps related information, which is good. And then we have a CI/CD pipeline. So right now we have the full flash, the proposal which we can share. But definitely we have to verify that with our experts, and that part we should never ever ignore. Right. And similarly, these are the markdown and these are the corresponding PDF file, and this is the final version which we have for this. Right. Now we have executive summary, we have a proposed high level architecture. By the way, we haven't write anything, then we have a code service component, which is just detailing out all those services. And then we have an API endpoints related information, how the flow would look like from web application to the API gateway, and then the respective API endpoints, then resiliency and the fault tolerance strategy, how we can just check, all those kind of concept related to the resilience and the fault tolerance. Then we have a technology stack options, option 1, 2, 3, where we can just suggest, okay, these are the three options, technology option on which the solution can be done. Then we have a cloud deployment and the DevOps strategy. And here we have this table where we can see, what kind of resource we need on the cloud side and why do we need it and what's the scaling strategy and the rest of being choosing, right? Which is really, really awesome to share. Then we have a detailed security policy and the compliance related stuff, which is very important to build the solution, right? CI/CD pipeline. Right, so this is what we got the final version by just deep downing onto our RFP by all these options. I can keep adding more options depending upon, I know, because there are a lot of things to be added in the proposal, but these are the most important aspect, which we have to include to start with. Right, definitely I would again, this has to be reviewed and this has to be reconciled against the RFP to ensure that whatever is being requested is being covered here or not. If not, then again, we can just do that. But just think about it, right? If you have this large RFP to understand, and then you have to build a proposal, then how long you're going to take, you need a multiple experts on that, then you need a lot of to and fro. But now we have this version which you can start reviewing it and just add whatever the information is needed. So that is what from the working demo perspective. And now we have, as I mentioned, I have fixed already a 429 which exception error code, which actually shows that API request quota has been exhausted from the large language model. So we are now having a fallback mechanism over there. So our application is no longer going to be crashed anymore. Right now, the coding part, just to explain or give you the code walkthrough, how I have achieved that. So there are a lot of changes which I have to make. The very first thing is we have to maintain the state. Right, so this is our UI. So here you see I have added two methods, run initial analysis, which is just having the same logic what we have earlier, but now we have the another method where we are saying run deep dive task, right? So here we need to just define this flag, whether this is passed or not, and accordingly, and we have to just see. So there is a logic on the basis of which these kind of logic will be executed. If you are really interested to just understand line by line code, I can just do that in my next video, but these are the changes which I have to make in this. So I have two methods, and then we have two functions we will see here, which are just calling these function, and we have to make some adjustment on my UI, and this is the additional information which we have added, right? Like, I mean, what all options we have, like what all deep dive option you have, which you can, trigger based on, your need, right? As I mentioned, we have to maintain the state as well, and that is where, we have state variable. Okay, base name, startup, cool. Okay, some cool. Session state. So this is where we are using a gradient state because we have to maintain, the previous markdown file and the PDF, and that is how, deep dive analysis will try to figure it out which markdown file and the PDF has to be picked. So that's a very simple change which we have to do. Like, I mean, we have to add two different functions, one for the initial analysis, second for the deep dive task, right? That is on the UI part. Now coming to the agent part, right? So in agent part, again, we have do a little bit of refactoring. Now you can see we have two run methods. One is for initial task, another one is for the deep dive. It's pretty much same. Now what I have done is I have created this private method which is going to execute the task. Logic is pretty much same, but here if you just see the another change which I have done is in this think method, I just included this fallback mechanism. Once we get into the exception state, then we have to fall back to the new model. Right, to achieve that, what I have done here is, if you just see, I have created a list of the models, and I just initialize with the 0. And whenever that exception will happen, this value will get increased to the next value, and then the next fallback method will be utilized where the API request quota has not been exhausted. Yeah, right. The rest of the thing is now we have two prompts. One is for the initial prompt, which is pretty much same as I explained in the previous video. This is the new section where we have created a new prompt because now we have to explain to our large language model what needs to happen. If you just see, there is a relationship between the options which we have, like generate alternative technology state, detail the cloud deployment services, provide a deeper comparison technology, and these are the same four options which we have given on our UI. Right, so if you just compare, these are the four options which we have. Right, so this is how it is just being related, and that is how the prompt engineering becomes very important because you have to keep dictating like what precisely you need. Otherwise, LLM may get confused because these are the very complicated tasks to be achieved by the large language model. Though they are very good in that, but a lot of time they just do the hallucination. Sometimes if they don't have a proper information, still they come up with some solution, and then sometimes it leads to the wrong action to be taken, or sometimes it just get confused and forget it and something new as well. So we have to design this prompt very smartly so that we can precisely dictate and we can have a more control on how large language model is going to be. Right. Now we can understand the very first thing which we have to do, the read context, then we have to analyze the request, like what kind of request, and that is where these options, it's just saying, okay, if you want this request, then this is how you have to do this request. So this is just a very standard way of doing, not a standard way, but this is where your innovation will come into the picture. Then you have to update and generate a new. And what all the servers we have, that is what I have mentioned here. Because in this state, we don't have to provide more because we all have to do is to just write the report and read the right? So that is what we have. Same as rest of the structure is same, like what should be output and how the memory should be preserved given to the next. Right now, so the only thing, the changes which we have here is two different methods depending upon whether we are in an initial analysis phase or the deep dive phase, then this will be executed. Now you can see the only difference here we have is the max snap, which I have just increased to 15. And the another difference which we have in these two methods is deep dive is false and true. And if you just see the relationship, these functions are being called here in my API for those button click. If you just see run deep dive task, if you just click here, it will take you to this function, and there if you just see, this is where we are making the request to our agent, right? So this is where agent, and then this run deep dive with the task, right? Same thing we have here, and here we are, rather than using a deep down option, we are simply calling a backward bound function, which is the standard way of building our Agentic AI so far. right? So this is just a very high level code walkthrough how we have designed that. I will push all these code into my repo, but I will be getting access based on the request only because it is in my GitLab repo and I don't want to expose this to GitHub for now until or unless it reaches to the point where it is very advanced, where it has all kind of safeguard mechanism in place. Okay, so this is from the high level code walkthrough perspective. Now, if you really want to understand the very high level flow from these deep dive, though I have already explained that, you can also, once you just have this application set up, you can understand if you have been following along with my Agentic AI videos, then this is how it works. So another one, I can quickly go with the high level flow one more time. Once you upload the RFP, then it just try to analyze, and this is the JSON which is feeds to the MCP client. Then MCP client talk to the MCP server and say, okay, this is my PDF and I want you to read that and just give me back the text in a simple format for all the pages which we have. And then this response comes back to the large language model through the MCP client. And then agent rethinks and just do all the magic at this point in time where it just create that technical proposal and it's created in the markdown format. And then it again says, okay, now we have to convert this markdown into the PDF. Once that is done, this task is done, which is the initializing, analyzing the RFP. And that is where the interesting part comes in, which we are calling as a conversational group, where we can do the deep diving based on those 4 options, which I just mentioned, elaborate on a proposed architecture, provide a deeper comparison of technology state, then a detail of the cloud deployment services, and generate alternative technology state as well. And again, the request is pretty much same. We have to just click the option and then just click the button, generate elaborate document, and then the prompt will come into the picture, which I have just shown you. This prompt, the second one, and then it will figure out which option you have selected, and accordingly it will say you must add any detail for data flow, API component, resiliency strategy. And that is how those 3 different things just got added. I have shown you that the last one is the cloud deployment strategy. If I just come back here and if I just quickly compare that, and then we can quickly see why it has added those changes, right? So what was this? So you must add a specific service tier, instance sizes, and more detail on the security policy. That's the reason we are seeing all these detailed information like the services and the tier and the security policies, right? So now you know how large language model is deciding what section to be elaborate in which option, in which section, and that is where the prompt plays a very important and a critical role, right? So you have to understand this. Prompt engineering is the most important aspect when you want to build an agentic AI. There are a lot many, like understanding an MCP protocol is another interesting important aspect to understand, but the prompt engineering plays a very, very important role. Otherwise, a large language model will not be able to control its execution because it has not many information which we can't even think from the human perspective. Right. So I hope I just explained the entire flow, how the things are related to each other, how I designed this agentic AI. And now we know how to get the final proposal out, which required a manual review. Again, I would say this is really required to be manually reviewed, whether this is whatever the new technical proposal we are getting with this, whether it is in line with the request for proposal which customer has rolled out in the beginning. Right? We can add the value, and if you just find, okay, I know there are a lot of things which I'm missing, I know, but these are the most important things which I implemented, and as I go along, I will just keep adding more information to this so that it will be more closer to what we actually put in our proposals, right? But for now, this is a very good start, and I'm really amazed and I'm excited to just have more options so that we can just keep using this in a real time with less manual intervention. Right? And with less time required to build these kind of proposals. Okay, so that's it from my side for this particular video. If you have any feedback or suggestion, if you want me to add any other option or any other section inside the technical proposal, please share that into the comment section, and I would love to incorporate that into my next video so that you will have agentic AI with all your options which you are utilizing to build the proposal for any request for proposal, right? In that way, we can just not only save the time for a lot of folks to build the proposal, but we can utilize that save time to just be more creative and innovative. Right? So that's it from my side for this particular video. And in the next video, I will just try to see what is the next intelligence deep dive analysis I would like to add, and that is something which is a surprise for you. So if you really like this video, give a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed for my channel, subscribe for my channel and hit the notification bell, so that when I'll just come up with the new version or the new video where I will be having a more interesting option to add, so that you can get to the more closer real-time proposal which can be used as is to share with the customer, right? That is what my very optimistic goal to achieve with this. I know it's going to take a little bit of time, but if you have any suggestion or any option you want me to do, put that in the feedback section, right? And as always, thanks for watching this, and stay healthy and keep learning new things.